Hello and welcome. Welcome back to the show. A little bit late uploading everything today. Just had some stuff go on last night to where it just didn't work out to get everything recorded. It's been a busy, hectic return to regular routine around here, that's for sure. So we're all trying to figure out the best day to do A, and then the best day to do B, and then move B to C, and then switch back and turn it around all to that thing. So anyway, today we got a few different things to talk about. I am flying solo today. Our schedule of things, if you want to kind of skip around, if you're looking forward to our recap of CBS's The Road, the kind of country music, American Idol reality type show, singing competition thing, I'm going to put that at the very end of the show today. We're going to talk a little bit about how I am planning to start a marketing business for Southern Illinois businesses. And if you are a Southern Illinois business person or you know a business owner, basically in the 618 area code, I'm going to bring 10 plus years of sales and marketing and PR experience to you, and basically going to be another small local business, me and maybe some others, depending on how things work out, helping out other small businesses like yourself or your friends if you pass this along to them. So I'm going to start that. I'm going to get a few little details about that. That's still very preliminary, but that's where I'm going to start because it'll be covered the quickest. We're going to talk a little bit about finding perspective today. I had a lot of thoughts the other night about a few different things and about how in 2026 my word for the year was perspective. It was pursuit of perspective. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job of that, but I've lost my way, which will lead us into our next conversation. And a text that I sent to my wife this morning because my mood was not in a good place, and she kind of called me out on it. So I texted her this morning and I kind of explained where I was coming from, and just trying to figure out how this old brain works. So that's kind of the list, and then we'll have the CBS's The Road recap for you at the very end. Welcome to the show. Okay, so this marketing business thing. Like I mentioned in the intro, I bring over 10 years of sales and marketing experience and award-winning promotions and programs and script writing and a great view on how social media can help your business way more now than ever. It can help your own personal business, like what I've been doing. We've been growing steadily on this thing since basically we started doing it regularly about every single day for the most part in early October, and I want to pass that knowledge along and help other small businesses basically in the 618 area code because I know that time is a problem for small businesses and the owners. You know you need social media, you know you need marketing, but a lot of times you either don't have the time, don't have the knowledge, and it becomes kind of a chore. Now, there's all kinds of agencies out there that can help you out, and some of them are great, and some of them are, ran by local people. There's some local agencies in our area. But then there's a lot of these businesses that, they don't have the funds to help or get help from an agency, or that agency has, so many people and so many different campaigns and all these different things that they take on too much. And so my hope is that even if it's simply helping you post on Facebook regularly and fixing your Facebook and doing some Google, cleanups for you, different things like that, I think I can really help a lot of small businesses in our area succeed much better. And maybe they feel like they're already too busy, but it's always nice to be able to turn down business or refer business to someone else. And that can be a lot better than, maybe trying to be overworked or not have enough business. You never want to not have enough business. So there's more to come on that. I didn't have a whole lot on that today, but I wanted to speak it into existence and share it with anybody who might be listening, especially early on in the show, who is either a business owner. Obviously, we have this platform that you can support, but then I can turn around and maybe help your business through marketing and help kind of build up your social medias. And I've got some other things in the works. And so we're still a little ways away from it, but it's happening. It's coming probably in this first quarter. So like I said, if you're a small business owner or you know somebody that has a small business, which I've talked to quite a few already, that could use some help, I'm going to be your guy. I'm going to help out. I did it for over 10 years. It's exactly what I did. I just did it for another company. Now I'm just going to be doing it for myself, and I'm going to be basically working directly for you as opposed to working for somebody else. So that's happening. That's coming. Now I want to talk about in 2026 finding perspective. Perspective and the pursuit of perspective was our buzzword whenever we had that show around New Year's Eve or just after New Year's, whichever week we did it, where we kind of picked our words for the year. And mine was perspective because I feel like I lost a lot of perspective doing what I thought was the right job and doing what the right thing was for me. But it actually took not doing that anymore and being let go from that to really find perspective on what means the most in life. And I lose perspective. Let's not get it twisted. I lose perspective quite a bit. I lost it this morning. Kind of mentioned, I mentioned at the top of the show where I was letting all the outside things get to me. And in a moment of trying to have a 2-year-old get rid of his pacifier for the last 2 nights, and the first night went so smoothly that we got a little bit greedy for the second night, but last night was awful. So it was terrible sleep. I slept on the couch and I was up and down so many times, and I just kind of lost perspective on the day and that everything was good, because looking back on that moment this morning where I kind of switched and I let my brain take over, my kids were laughing, my wife was, talking, and, everybody was happy, and I just kind of got lost in my own world. And my wife called me out on it this morning, and I texted her later on in the day basically apologizing for my mood switch. And I'll read you what I told her. I said, I apologize for my mood switch this morning. It wasn't just the up and down with our son's situation last night. It was everything from yesterday. Now, yesterday I had some interviews and some meetings and different things happen. And a lot of it was positive, but then talking with her and kind of getting into the nitty-gritty, when you get out of the meeting, everything is great usually in the meeting, but then you get out of the meeting and you start kind of getting into the nitty-gritty and the details, and you start kind of, not her, but I start questioning, well, is any of this actually real? Is this the real thing I need to be doing? So it was everything from that to then switching last night and kind of letting my brain take over again and not having perspective. But then everything that I felt like I needed to get done today. I have a lot on my mind about working and a lot on my mind about just the overall work. And the reason I say all these things to people, or I say things on here, is because there's got to be people out there that are going through a similar situation. And even if it isn't exactly like mine, there's got to be people, especially guys, husbands, and fathers, who know how I'm feeling and don't get a chance to talk about it. So maybe if they hear me discuss these things and kind of give my perspective, to go back to that word, on everything, it'll help them feel a little bit better about their situation. Because if nothing else, we can all suck together and not be doing great and figure it out together as well. And most importantly, we can find perspective. So with everything I have to get done today and in a moment of whatever, I let my mind kind of spiral, and it affected my overall outlook and my mood on the day, like in a snap too. It was crazy how quickly it happened. And I just feel like I'm in a constant state of failure. When nothing is progressing for me, I feel like I'm failing all the time. I feel not only like I let my wife down or my kids and my family, but most of all, I feel like I let myself down. I worry that I'm not doing enough to not only achieve any kind of dream I might have, but also not enough for just myself, work on myself, but then also for my family. So it's like I'm trying to be true to me and who I am, but I'm living in like this constant state of fantasyland bullshit where I just need to get a regular ass job and just love my life for what it is, regardless if that job is something that I love or not. But then none of what I'm doing there feels right, like all the time. It's like anytime I find some sort of groove, I feel guilty that it isn't providing more for me and mine. And so the things I feel that would make me and my family most comfortable and maybe bring everybody around me more security and happiness are things that I have a hard time coming to terms with and doing on a day-to-day basis. I did so many things on a day-to-day basis where I was living what turned out to be kind of a lie. I thought I was in a great place. I thought I was in a great position. And because I was making money and supporting my family and everything like that, I thought, well, it's just, everybody hates their job a little bit. And that can be true, but you can also find happiness and perspective in other ways too. And I think I mostly feel all of this because I just feel like I truly believe that I am meant for something bigger and something more tailored to my actual skills. And it's just hard to put a finger on what that is. And maybe it's what we talked about at the beginning of the show, starting my own marketing business. Maybe that'll take off and it'll be great not only for small businesses to have a local guy handle their local business and bring them more local business, but maybe it's something else. I don't quite know what that is, but I'm trying to find perspective to figure out what that is. But I fear, and here's my biggest fear, and this is where it all kind of came together this morning, and I realized something. I fear if I don't keep progressing towards whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing or whatever that looks like, and I end up doing something that I hate, I'll never go back and fulfill some of the biggest parts of myself. And to me, that bothers me more than anything. And I think that's why whenever I don't have progression and the groove doesn't continue to go and I don't have positive things come up, I tend to feel like maybe I'm making the wrong choice. Now I start to question those things. So it's hard whenever you don't feel like you're progressing towards something that not only do you want, but you need to do for yourself, but you've got all these other outside forces kind of not helping you along the way. So that leads me into trying to find perspective. So that was this morning, right before we recorded this. Was getting everybody ready, getting the kids ready for school, and getting breakfast and lunches and everything put together. My wife was doing a lot of the bulk work because I was up and down with our 2-year-old last night with the whole pacifier situation, trying to take that away finally. First night went so good. It was a fluke. It was a fluke because there's no way. I knew that it was going to be beginner's luck, and we were going to have a massive issue last night. So I was ready for it, but it still didn't help that I was up and down that much. But I kind of told her, this is my thing. This whole pacifier thing, it's her baby, so she'd rather not take it away from me, even though she knows we probably should, and we should have a long time ago. I chose to take this task on. She's taking on the task of trying to get our daughter to eat better and eat more foods and be more brave about that. I'm taking on the task of taking away the pacifier from our kid, our son. So I say all that, trying to find perspective. Perspective is the word for 2026. So if you find perspective, you find peace. You find a higher power or something in the universe to put all your faith into. Mine just so happens to be sort of Christian, Bible-based, that sort of thing. But that doesn't have to be yours. There can be a higher power and a different feeling, something that you believe in, even if it's just, I have faith that this will work out. So you find all that. And the money or the happiness or anything else, all the good things will come. Find perspective, find peace, find a higher power to put your faith in, and all the good things will come. And no matter the order that you do the first 3, the fourth and final outcome will always be the same. Nothing will be a problem or a mistake from that point on, only a lesson or an opportunity to grow and learn. Now, that's something that I'm learning more so here lately. It all goes back to the perspective thing. I am trying to learn that no matter if I feel like it's a problem or something bad happens, I try not to look at it as a bad thing. I'm trying to look at everything from this point on as a lesson, a teachable moment, an opportunity to grow and learn. It's like, I didn't get that job. Well, maybe that job wasn't meant for me. I didn't really like how this was done in the interview. But now I've done an interview, so I kept my chops up. So the next interview, I'll be a little bit sharper, and maybe it'll be a better opportunity and something that I want to do. There's no more coincidences in this world. There's fate, and there's faith that you have in your fate, but there's no more coincidences. Good people are meant for great things and true happiness. Bad people are just those that haven't yet found the good in them or this life. But you don't worry about them because you can't control them or what they do. And if you can only control you and you want to find true happiness, you have to find perspective, find peace, find a higher power or something in the universe to put your faith in, and the good things will come. I truly believe all that, and I wrote all that down the other day whenever I was trying to find perspective, and I was having some trouble. And I was sitting there thinking of, how can I simplify this conversation? How can I simplify my path to finding, peace, happiness, perspective on, how to make things better? And so that's what I came up with. You find perspective, you find peace, and you find something to put your faith in this universe, a higher power of some sort. And everything else will come, and that's good. So lastly here on the show, we're going to recap CBS's The Road. So if you haven't watched it, spoiler alert, it's been out for a little while. Just not quite a month, I don't think. It's kind of like country music's version of a reality singing show, but they want to... In country music, they always talk about the road and life on the road. Now, they talk about it in all music, obviously, but it seems like in country music, the road is just as much as part of the music as, backwoods and hunting and fishing and loving every day and love stories and breakup stories and, drinking too much and drinking problems and all those things. In country music, the road and the trials and tribulations of the road are much more prevalent, and it seems like, in the lyrics. And it's prime example, Luke Combs just released that new song, This Hotel Room, I think it's called, which we're going to do a reaction video on YouTube. We're going to listen to it and put that on our YouTube, Big Jake Linder on YouTube. You can check that out. Because when I first listened to it without hearing it, I was like, oh, this is fine. This is a good song. He doesn't put out bad songs. And then I started hearing it and listening to the lyrics. So we're going to put something together on that, little reaction video, if you want to go check that out in the next few days. But the road itself, not just the show, but the road itself and touring is a massive part of country music and their lyrics. So it's really a good idea that they built the show on. It's something that you hear talked about in any interview or any podcast or anything with country music stars about, what's a good story from the road, or, what's it like to be on the road with family and, try to navigate all of that. And so they've kind of encapsulated that into this new reality show. And again, if you haven't watched it, we are going to talk about the winner and everything. And you'd like to still watch it, just be aware that we're going to be discussing that. On top of all that, if you'd like to get in the comments and discuss your favorite parts of the show, please do so, and watch all social medias and hit me up for those. So I want to go through and kind of talk about some of these contestants. I think they have them listed on this site here in order of whenever they got eliminated. But I don't remember exactly the order of when they got eliminated. But I just was my main question was, how do you pick the contestants for this show? Because there are millions, maybe, definitely thousands of some of the best potential artists, songwriters, performers, any of them, in Nashville especially. And I'm sure they had casting calls and everything like that, but how do you truly pick these? But then I started to wonder about, well, maybe there is a group, and it's kind of true with who won as well. Maybe there's a group of singers and songwriters in Nashville that have put in a lot of time and that everybody in town knows. This is how they talk about it in Nashville. Oh, everybody knows him around town. Prime example, if you're in the Southern Illinois region, you know him, Drew Baldridge. Everybody knew him around town for 10 years, and they knew he was talented, but it took until just recently for him to finally find that major type of success. So, how do you pick these contestants? It was my first question. But then I heard all the originals, and I started to maybe put something together. Almost every original that they played on that show was very good. And that may sound silly to say, but I've heard some original songs that were not very good. I've heard some published songs by mainstream artists that were not very good. But almost every original song played on that show by the contestants was really great. So I got to thinking maybe there is, not only are there performers and artists in Nashville that deserved a shot on this show, not that none of them did, but maybe it was less about their songs or less about their talent like on the stage and more so about their songs. And maybe that's what they were trying to go for, was to highlight the songs more than anything. But also it's a business down there, and maybe these songs were top on everybody's lists, and so it got a chance to give them way more exposure. And all these things can work together. There doesn't have to be some major underlying agenda. I just thought it was interesting that every original was so great, but the actual talent of the artist version of these songwriters and the performing version of these songwriters wasn't good top to bottom. And I realize you don't have to have everybody be great, but with that much talent in Nashville and the casting calls, I would have assumed that almost everybody, if not everybody, would have been great. And I don't know, there was just a few of them that I was like, do they really want to be an artist? Because they don't act like they really want to perform on this stage. So I don't know. So Olivia Harms, she was on there. She was the one, if you watched, that was a little bit more kind of country western style, which I think there is a lane for, but I don't know if it's like mainstream popular lane. Although the shift in country music right now is to go a little bit more old school, basically with just new lyrics and current day adaptation of those old school lyrics, but the sound is more old school. So maybe there's more of a lane for her than I'm realizing in the moment. John Wood, I'm just not quite sure. Again, all of these artists have had great originals on the show, but I'm not sure if John is necessarily a full-on, I don't know, country music superstar. This is all very small sample size, by the way. Let's not forget that. This is one sample size. Some of these artists played a handful of songs on a TV show that was edited. So let's not forget all of that. But I'm judging it from what I saw on the show, and that's what I'm basing it off of. Jenny Tolman, she's that long, dark-headed gal with really like bright eyes or bright blue eyes. I got a little confused with her because at times I was like, I think she's a really great songwriter, but she's just not the strongest singer. But then there were moments where she kind of would find the right range for her voice. She wasn't like some of the other contestants on the show. She's not going to go have this crazy range. But there were moments where she would find a perfect spot, and I'm like, oh, she can do it there. She does it there. But then there were these moments where I was like, And again, I'm not a great singer, and this is a show that was edited together, and we watch very small sample sizes. But I know good music, and I know how things make me feel and how things are supposed to sound. I have a good ear for all of those things. And I just felt like at times her singing ability maybe wasn't the best on the show. Obviously, she did win, but also does it fit being an artist full time? I think all of these contestants could be regular songwriters and will be and have been, for the most part. Forrest McCurran, very Bob Dylan, Jerry Jeff Walker, John Prine, that lane. What is that, East Nashville type? Todd Snyder, rest in peace. Rest in peace to most of those guys. He has that innate ability to captivate small crowds and even some of the larger crowds, and he's great with them, but does his sound overall, and it's not his ability. It's not his performing ability. It's not his songwriting ability. It's his literal sound. And I know you can tell he's a great singer, but does that sound of that voice translate into major success. Now, we're talking major success. He will be successful. He will never have to do anything other than sing and write songs and perform for the rest of his life. That's how good. And most of these people will, if not all of them for that matter. But if we're talking mainstream or large-scale success, I'm not sure that translated in that. Although it is a very singer-songwriter type feeling. We talk about how country music in general is going more old school. Well, the kids these days seem to be more interested in the singer-songwriter types and listening to music that really kind of focuses on that. So there could be a massive lane for him, and he may become, the next Bob Dylan or something like that. But was he more popular while he was alive or after he was gone or, that sort of thing? That would be my only thought on, what's his name? Forrest McCurran. And the overall, if you have any differing opinions on, these artists, or maybe you think I'm way off on some of those, let me know in the comments. You can let me know. Cody Hibbard. Does this guy I don't know. I'm not sure if this guy likes to perform. He may just want to be a songwriter, which is fine. But I guess I just was wanting some more from the fella, It always felt like he just really wasn't that excited to be wherever he was in that moment. And it probably a lot of nerves, and that sort of thing. But good gosh, buddy, let's have a little fun while we're doing this. Even when he was on stage, I guess when he's on stage it was a little bit better. And I'm a little confused by him. So we talked earlier about Jenny and how there were moments where she would sing and I'd be like, she's just not that strong of a singer. But then she would find like a lane or a key or whatever you want to call it. And I would be, wait. There it is. There's where she needs to be. I think it was the same thing for Cody. And they mentioned that on the show, if I remember correctly, how he tried to sing in that lower register when in actuality he should have just gone up a little bit higher and he would have sounded, a lot better. But, you're just trying. You're just trying to figure things out. But my big take on Cody was that he probably would have been out sooner if Tulsa hadn't happened whenever Tulsa happened. And he's an Oklahoma boy, so he probably got a lot of support and a lot of votes that way. And I think he has a lot of great songs. I wish I could remember that one song that he sang. They all had really great originals. And I think that's what kind of sets this show apart from other shows. Speaking of great originals, I don't know if you get more original than that Channing Wilson guy. I think he's 49, getting ready to be 50, open heart. Great story about his open heart surgery and how he's overcome all that. And, he's wrote songs with everybody. He's well known in town. And this was kind of like his shot to maybe try the artist thing. And I think, again, with him, there's a lane. He sounds like Hank, if we're being honest. He sounds like Hank Jr., like almost to a T. But does it translate to that mainstream large-scale success? I don't know. I don't think so. But then again, Chris Stapleton and two of the biggest performers of all time, Chris Stapleton and George Strait, barely moved from their circle at the front middle of the stage. They let their performance and their songs and everything else do the talking. So maybe Channing Wilson can be one of those people too. I think he certainly has the songwriting ability. He certainly has the voice. But whatever that translates into, again, this guy's going to write songs and perform his whole life. He's never going to have another job. But if we're talking large-scale mainstream success, I'm not sure if that's the case. And that's what he's going to be doing. Cassidy Daniels, the best singer, pound for pound, on the show. She reminds me of a Ashley McBride, not in her voice, but just the way that she kind of carries herself. And when you look at her and she starts performing, you immediately realize, she's a little bit different. You weren't quite sure when you looked at her, and you weren't sure what to get. You weren't sure what was about to happen. But then out of nowhere, it takes you to a different place. So if we were talking best singers on the show, she should have been the winner. And I think anybody on that show would have agreed, because pound for pound, she's the best singer, talent-wise. on the show. There's just no getting around that. Another really good singer and a great songwriter who looks like Carly Pearce is Brittany Kellogg. She will be a success. She probably already is. I think her song, what, Hey Mama? It's a great song. It's got a lot of play on streaming services. She will, in my opinion, just be one of like those great songwriters that everybody knows in Nashville. She's going to write, I think off of this, she's going to write or sell a few of her songs, get some of her songs recorded, and there's going to be a couple of like top 10s, maybe a number 1 in there somewhere. And she's just going to be the go-to for great songs from a female perspective. I think that's going to be her main lane from here on out. I'm not, again, there is an avenue for her to be kind of that Americana singer-songwriter, folk vocalist thing where she could probably perform and play shows and make a lot of money. But if you're looking at large-scale mainstream success, which is what I think everybody on the show was on there for, not just exposure, they were hoping to get the whole kit and caboodle. I think maybe that wouldn't necessarily be for her. I think she'll be great, and she'll be a great songwriter forever. Brianna Adams, she was the one, had long hair, always kind of wore like Native American type garb, and she had, well, it seemed like she was always wearing a cowboy hat or some sort of hat. She kind of reminds me of Gretchen Wilson a little bit, you know, just kind of a tough, great singer, and going to go out and command a stage and will probably be successful. She may have a couple of hits in her career, but you know, she just kind of she's got that thing about her that you can't deny. And that's what Gretchen Wilson had. Shout out Pocahontas, Illinois. Blaine Bailey. I don't remember much. And that's going to sound bad, especially if someday he's one of the biggest stars of all time. But I'm pretty sure he was gone early, maybe one of the first ones, if not the first one. And so the sample size was pretty small for him. But he's also very young. He's 23, so there's a lot to be had from that. Billy Joe Jones. When we were going to do the recap on here, originally, my wife was going to be on here to talk about it because we watched the show together. She was not a fan of Billy Joe Jones, and I don't know if it was so much because of her performance or because of the sickness over like 3 weeks on the show. Now, granted, I get it. People get sick. I don't think she was lying. You could kind of hear some crackles in that first week where she talked about being sick. You could hear her voice wasn't quite there. But also, I told my wife, I said, I think we are becoming a victim of show editing, reality show editing. They're making us want to hate her a little bit by the way they're editing. They edited too many coughs in there for it not to be kind of a trap. They could have edited out a lot of those coughs. I know they were trying to show that she was dealing with it all the way up to being on stage, but it was just there was too many coughs, too many for me not to be like, I think they're trying to make us hate her. And I don't hate her. I think she's going to be a great performer. I think she's a great performer, and I think whether she has large-scale mainstream success, she will always be an artist. She's the type where they could probably take her and try to turn her into, you know, one of the greats, female people in country music. The only thing I wonder is some of her interactions on the show whenever she was on stage for rehearsals, the sickness thing, and again, maybe the show is just trying to paint the picture of her to us and make us want to believe that she is a certain way, and maybe I'm falling for it, but I wonder if she's going to be a little bit tougher to deal with in the business, because it seemed like she kind of took offense a little bit too easily sometimes. She kind of got emotional a little bit too much sometimes, which that's not to say that that's a bad thing usually, but I feel like in that business, I'm not in it, but I'm sure you have to have a thick skin, and you have to be able to like let things happen to you that you are really upset about, and you have to just kind of move on. And it felt like, and again, this is all very small sample size, so even if it did seem like that on the show, maybe it was a very small moment in what she was doing to where it ended up not being a big deal. But I think forever she'll be an artist. I think she'll hook up with maybe some sort of label. I think she's a fantastic singer. one of the better singers on the show. I think if she hadn't had those struggles with her voice, she probably would have been comparable to Cassidy Daniels, but Cassidy Daniels was pound for pound the best singer. And then the guy that won it, you talk about struggles, trials, tribulations, and going through everything in under the sun and being in Nashville for a long time. He's 36 years old, and I think he's been doing it for 10 plus, 15 plus, 20 plus years. And he's just now kind of, I think he went into this show after listening to him on God's Country podcast. Shout out to those guys, by the way. He went into the show with a clear-cut plan once he kind of found out the dynamic. And I think that was the difference maker. He knew when to play the right songs, when and where, and in what moment. And he picked some great covers. And the first week, whenever he picked his massive hit that he wrote for his original by Cole Swindell, I mean, that was going to be a no-brainer that he was going to at least move on to the next week. And it kind of changed the dynamic of the show a little bit too. And he immediately became the front runner. I think a lot of people thought maybe Channing would have been 1A, 1B. Or maybe should have been the winner. I mean, they were the top two, so that would make sense. But I think where Channing went wrong is his originals on the last show, or his original on the last show. Or if he's going to play that original, maybe he should have switched gears and maybe found something else for the cover song. Because he tried to do kind of a Willie version of David Allan Coe's The Ride. I don't know. To me, it didn't come off as the best. The original was really good, and it kind of rocked the house and all those things, but maybe there could have been another song. And I understood the meaning behind it, being where they were at the Ryman and everything like that. I think they're at the Ryman. I understood where he was trying to go with it, and it's a great song, and it was a good cover, but I think that one song might have been the difference from him winning, because Adam Sanders chose, when you choose a Brooks and Dunn song, you're automatically going to get a lot of extra votes. And then his original that he played already sounds like a hit. It literally sounds like, I think, was it Jordan Davis? One of the guest judges on there said, that sounds like a hit there. And one of the songs that Channing played whenever Brothers Osborne was on the show, I literally said, that sounds like a Brothers Osborne song. The next clip was cut to them, and they said, that's a really good song. I might want to cut that. So that's where we hold. To bring it all the way back to the beginning, I think there was a huge number of original songs that everybody wants to record or that are really popular around there. And so that was like a driving force behind who to pick, but also it was trying to get a nice mix of guys and gals that have been there a long time, brand new people, great singers, maybe not such great performers or artists, but they've got some great originals, and you're trying to find a mix of the whole field and that sort of thing. But Adam Sanders was rightfully so the winner, hands down the best overall entertainer on the show. Now, if they do another season, they're going to bring, I guarantee there's going to be 3 or 4 of these Adam Sanders types that are great entertainers, that like Garth Brooks type thing. But Adam Sanders his voice sounds like if you were to have Tracy Lawrence sing David Lee Murphy's catalog. You know what I mean? Like, he sounds like David Lee Murphy and Tracy Lawrence, like a mixture of the two, because he can kind of go up on that higher register. But I felt that, there were times whenever like Blake or Jordan Davis or Keith Urban would make the comment of that song sounds like a hit. Especially they made it more so whenever Adam Sanders played his originals versus a lot of the others. But it's a great show, and if you watched it and you enjoyed it, hit me up. Let me know what you thought about my takes on CBS's The Road, and let us know what you want to hear next week. But that's going to end on the show today. Make sure you go out there, you find perspective, you find peace, and you find a higher power to believe in, and all the happiness and good things will come to you in the long run. But just know you only have one life to live, so make your own way, because in this life, the only thing that matters is a name, and a name is what you make it.